Thank you very much for coming tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and it's really great to be able to say the word ladies in that sentence. I've spoke at Coinscrum before, and it's great to see a far more diverse crowd tonight. Firstly, Shapeshift have sponsored this evening. You've had a couple of drinks from them. Woohoo! Some of you have even had some socks. And later on, there will be a couple of T-shirts too, by my glamorous assistant, who's now showing you.
Nice.
Hey, woo, can we get a woo? Hey, extra large, so they knew who was coming. And I guess on the thanks as well, one other thanks has to go out to the man on my right. Paul puts on these events, he's been putting them on for the last 5 years. He works really hard during the day, and somehow he finds enough energy to then put these on. I don't know how he does it. I would just like to state for the record, do we have any Cliff High fans in the house? Does anybody know Cliff High? Thank you, sir. Good one. 2? Yeah, all right. 3? We're all coming out now. Yeah. So anyway, you don't know Cliff High, Paul, and I'll tell you why you don't know Cliff High, because somebody who came to one of our meetups a year ago for the first time went out and raised $6.5 million this year, Steve from Populous, and he absolutely brilliant job. He got interviewed by Cliff, and Cliff, first of all, said, the world-famous Coinscrum. Yeah, know it. Oh, dead chuffed at that, right? Yeah, the second thing... The second thing was that Steve had actually come to the event that we had organised last year. The pub quiz was the first time he'd ever seen anything in crypto. So I was dead chuffed at that. And the third one was he wanted just to say what a great guy Paul was. And his actual words were, he's a great guy, a lovely guy, Paul, and then he just decided to make it up and called him Paul Davis, ladies and gentlemen. So Paul Davis. I'd just like to say, for the record, this is Paul Gordon. Although we are thinking about starting a rumour, which is Paul Gordon, the Bitcoin maximalist, actually, after holding all these ICO events in the Ether world, has had his own personal flippening and has changed his name to Paul Davis, and he now loves Ether. So if you want to just spread that rumour, feel free, all right? My name is Stephen Taylor. I've recently been taken on at Proof of Work as their internal community manager. Proof of Work have been offering branding, marketing and strategy to the Bitcoin space since 2014. So their roots run very deep. And I'm dead chuffed to be a part of their team now. Although, to be honest, I have been absolutely badgering them for 2.5 years, so it's about time they gave me a job. I've come on board because we've started taking on strategic partnerships. And the first one we've partnered up with are Trippki. And I love Trippki for 2 main reasons. One, they're trying to solve a real-world problem. Woohoo! And secondly, I love their value proposition of their token. But that's just me, and we'll get to that later. So tonight's just a general introduction. We won't be going in deep on anything. I'll be showing you one brief overview of the site later on. But for now, I'd like to hand you over to Mr. Trippki himself to give you a little bit about his background and how he had the idea. Mr. Edward Cunningham.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Steve. That was good. I'm not sure if I'll be that good. Before I get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to give you a little bit of background about me and how I came about to Trippki. I've been in the travel and leisure business for 25 years, having owned a wholesale safari company in Southern Africa, as well as a boutique hotel and several restaurants. I then, in 2007, having married a British girl, moved to the UK and ran a food production business in Dorset. And then in 2014, I decided to hell with the UK weather, and I decided to go to South America to search for new tourism opportunities, because in Africa we had Ebola, and we were looking for something, something new. So whilst I was traveling around Uruguay, looking at hotels, trying to sort of onboard them into the new business, I came across a group of hippies and preppers in the wilderness who were trading and selling Bitcoin, as well as smoking weed and discussing the blockchain. And I thought, Jesus, this is something magical here. So I started trading Bitcoin myself and hodling, and then I started thinking, how can I apply the blockchain technology to the travel industry? So I came back to the UK because obviously the hub of the sort of blockchain world was certainly not in Uruguay. So I came to as many Bitcoin and Ethereum meetups as I could, met some fantastic people with some radical ideas before forming a team of various travel founders, as well as Stephen and Toma and Mike from Proof of Work, and Ida and Diego, who's building out our payment system. Excuse me here, bit nervous. But the travel industry is worth $7 trillion, and the hotel industry, the hotel market is $550 billion. It is highly centralized and dominated by a few major players.
Actually, sorry, Ed, let me interrupt you there. Can we do a bit of market research? As he says, highly dominated, highly centralized. How many people here in the last 5 years have booked a hotel through Booking.com, Expedia, Trivago? For the camera, that's a huge show of hands. I'm guessing at about 95 to 98%. I'd like to flip that around. How many of you have ever booked directly with a hotel or only ever go with a certain brand of hotel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going for the camera at about 10%. Sorry, Ed. Thank you.
Sorry. So the first wave of disruption that I encountered was when the internet arrived, and that allowed the airlines to sell directly to the consumer, bypassing the travel agent. A couple of years later, the OTA, the online travel agent, known as Booking.com and Expedia, arrived on the market. And whilst that was great for the consumers, it wasn't necessarily good for the hotels, because the hotels have to pay up to 30% commission to these online tour operators and tour operators. And on top of that, the online travel agents and their tech savviness use a part of that commission to leverage the commission towards the cost per click advertising on Google, which gives them a huge amount of dominance in the industry. So essentially, we came up with the idea, which was to create a rewarding booking experience whereby we could use the cryptographic token, known as Trip, to help sort of spread the value in the travel industry, or rather between the consumer and the hotel.
Great. So, and I think that's it in a nutshell, really, isn't it? So let me just recap on that. We've got the current model. We've got a middleman, the OTA, extracting up to 30% of the transfer value. They keep that for themselves. They then spend that on huge amounts of marketing to differentiate themselves at brand level from one another. The offers that we see are the same. The deals we see are the same. That value transfer has gone to waste. Our vision is that value transfer could be better shared out by giving the guests more and the hotel more without either taking advantage of the other. So by using cryptonomic incentives, by giving the guest more, we can get some form of network effect kicking in to disintermediate the current OTA model. I think tokens work best when their incentives are aligned. And to start with, we have an affiliate and referral program, which we think marries some of the successes of Airbnb and Uber in growing the network out, as well as getting on social media. I can't remember if you mentioned that hotels are desperate to get onto social media. And I think that's a really important factor. If you're losing your customers and you can't actually grab a hold of them, social media is the place to be. So let's assume nothing, in fact. Let's assume nothing. Let me wind back here. Effectively, a customer with us can go to a hotel, book it, stay, pay, and at the end of it, receive a small token, Trip, as a portion in payment. That Trip payment can be received by doing many other things as well. Just think, you've been to a hotel, so you could write a review, a blog post. You could post on social media. Instagram, I can imagine being a big hit with the hotels. Or you could refer a friend or family member onto the platform who then goes and stays at the hotel, pays, and you too will receive a small portion of that payment, that value transfer, kicked back to you in Kik. Kik? That's that ICO you were talking about the other day, isn't it? So let's suppose I'm a customer. I've gone to the hotel, I've paid, I received my Trip kickback. What's going to keep me loyal to that hotel? This is it's a cryptographic token. I can spend it anywhere. Well, we've built in to our rewards protocol, a rewards protocol which goes by the name of the Trip reward protocol. And as Ed mentioned, we have a native token on it, the Trip token, which, by the way, is a limited supply. Okay, very important when we talk about this. So I've received part of my Trip back. I want to spend it anywhere. But the hotel is savvy enough to realize our reputation system that's built in to this rewards protocol. Therefore, I can grow reputation on the platform, or I can grow reputation, and I can grow reputation with the hotel directly, or any hotel. So a hotel can come to me and tailor a bespoke deal that they know I'm going to want to take up. Now, I might not want to take it up. It's up to me. That's the joy here. As a consumer now, instead of having some tie-in to a loyalty program that has to be spent on a certain date and a certain time, I have a token. I can do what I want with it. But we've given this tool to the hotels to help them engineer a bit of loyalty. Now, if I don't take them up on it, what's the hotel gained? Well, they've had a major savings on their commission costs. They've actually had some social media outreach, and they've been plugged in to a decentralized rewards protocol that we know they spend 7 to 8% per year on their revenue putting towards loyalty programs they know don't work. So I think that's quite a keen incentive for them, and that's why I thought we're trying to solve this real-world problem. I think we might have a solution here. So, if I can find my flicker, let's show you a little bit about the system. If Ed's going to have to sit down here so people at the front can see.
I'll move over here because you won't see it.
I'm afraid when I was in China last, I did buy one of these laser pens, but I daren't take it out of the house because, I will be arrested. And it'd probably burn through here anyway. So to give you a rough idea, the rewards protocol, top layer, reward service, that's allocating trip. We have an exchange underneath that from which we can buy trip from. I'll explain more of that in a moment. We have an Oracle service which checks the price of trip on the exchange, and an identity service which validates the users, and obviously that's part of the rep system, and also manages the private keys, because if you're onboarding general public at the moment, private keys, pretty important thing to be managed. At the heart of the system is the Trippki vault. We've put this in to help bootstrap the system in the early days. 40% of all the trip will be held inside that vault, and they will only be distributed to users of the system. Another 40% will be distributed during the token launch in November. We think this is really a fairer way to get our tokens out there, and it also will help liquidity in the early days. And at a very simple level, and I should point out we will be having technical AMAs during this campaign, so I'm not going to bother going too deeply now, but quite simply, money, any currency, is sent to the vault to buy trip to kick back to the customer. Those funds are held. And when certain pre-designated milestones are triggered by network effect, the funds in that vault go to an exchange, buy trip, and they burn it. And we think our buy and burn strategy is really essential to a deflationary mechanism of a token. You make something rarer, you increase demand on pressure. And that's really why I said I liked the value proposition of this token. I love the buy and burn technique, and I think we're going to put it to good effect, especially since it's tied into network effect and milestones being hit. And hopefully that should really kick in this network effect and get us really competing with the OTA model. And I think it just bears in mind one more thing for me to say, which is we really want people to come to this system for one reason only. We want hotels to come and we want guests to come because they get a better deal. An absolute better deal for everybody if they're using this system. So really, that's all I wanted to say on this, Ed. I don't know if you've got anything more to say. I know we should mention the fact that we are talking to hotels, and two, certainly that we can show you right now, the Red Carnation Hotel Collection. Yeah, my room's the one over on the left. Can't wait. And the other partners are Legacy Hotels Resorts, who have many a hotel, and I won't bother reading those out to you right now. Anything else you'd like to add, Ed?
I think you've covered most of it. As Steve said, ultimately, at the end of the day, hotels desperately want to deal directly with the customer, and they want to do so at the least possible cost. So if we can help bring down their commission rates, then that's what we're going to try to do. And in terms of rewards, everybody gets rewards. When you get air miles, they're fragmented, you can't use them. When you get hotel points, they often expire, and the consumers are fed up with that. So we think that combining the Trippki hotel platform that reduces the commissions drastically, along with the Trip token rewards, we can really build a wonderful ecosystem that can change the travel industry today. And so we invite you to join us in our dream. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and either I'll answer them or some of my team who are here tonight will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it bears bearing in mind that this is the first time we've gone out to the public. So even if you've just got thoughts rather than questions, feel free out. First gentleman's hand, I think, went up. Actually, sorry. Can we give the microphone?
So I like the idea of a deflationary token, especially for a potential investor in your ICO. When it comes to the network effects that unlock the tokens from your vault, what are these network effects?
Stephen is very good at answering that question.
Yeah, let me just go find Stephen. I don't want to go into the minutiae yet of how those things are being done. Our tech team's working really hard at the moment on looking at the ways to make this system coagulate together nicely. So I don't have a great answer for you in terms of how we work out network effects and those milestones. That's why I said they'll be predetermined. The tech team, they're very smart. They work on kind of game theory and things like that. One of the members is here. I don't know if he wants to talk about that.
So I think at core, any network effect is the result of a solution to a two-sided market, right? You've got, in this particular instance, hotels are looking for people who want to stay, and people who want to stay at the hotels, the guests are looking for the hotels. The way this is being solved today is in one of two models. The first model is Booking.com or Expedia. They have zero network effect. They spend, between the two of them, on the order of $8 billion advertising online and some additional marketing spend per annum to try and find the customers, connect them to the hotel. The other model is the Airbnb model. The Airbnb model has managed to create a marketplace where people can both act as guests and as hosts. By having an account, you're more likely to start looking, and you're more likely to go to Airbnb because there are lots of hosts, or you're more likely to host because there are lots of guests. So in order to create this network effect, you need to find a focal point to bring both sides of the market together. And in this particular instance, the token is the focal point. And I think one of the great discoveries that we made with Bitcoin, and then later with lots of other digital assets with Ethereum, is that by creating a single asset, I mean, every single currency has this built-in natural network effect because it acts as a glue. That is what currency is. It's a glue between the buyer and the seller. By creating a single platform, you have this built-in network effect. And the trick where it comes to using a deflationary currency is that by telling everyone who holds the token that their token is going to go in value, they have a built-in incentive in the same way that early adopters of Bitcoin or early adopters of Ethereum have an inherent sort of desire to talk about what they're doing. They become kind of like vegans, you know? So you are my favorite audience member.
Some of my best friends are vegans. Yeah.
I think, so
Thank you, Idan. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Is that okay? So,
Hi, name's Robert Willis. I work in blockchain technologies. Got a question. One is geared towards business, and the other one is more of a technical question. The business question is, where are the margins, and how are you able to monetize this platform in terms of where the sources of revenue? Is it just the clients, the business clients, and the customers, or there may be another area where you can monetize the platform? And the technical question is, the management identity is one layer, but then you have Oracle as another. So are you using the ledger fabric in terms of on your protocol or in your framework? And how, if it's a centralized private network, what are the disadvantages?
Sorry,
that was a big question.
3 big questions. Okay, well, the first part, in terms of the revenue or so initially what we're starting off with is we're onboarding the hotels, and they'll be paying or paying a 2.5% commission towards running of the platform. In terms of marketing that platform, it'll be through the network effect, through basically blogs and referrals and affiliations, which obviously will take time to grow. So we're not expecting this thing to come out of the running block straight away. In terms of the sort of second and third question, again, if I can ask Idan to answer that, he would be best for that.
I can certainly say in terms of the second, I mean, everyone here will be token holders. That's the monetary element, right? We hold the token goes up, we're happy. There is no need to do any more than that. I didn't really understand the third question.
The third question was based on, is it a decentralized platform or a centralized platform? And are you incorporating another technology provider like Oracle on the ledger fabric?
Okay, so there's basically three layers. There's the booking platform, which is centralized. Then there's the protocols reward, and then there's the reputation ledger. And those are decentralized. In time, if we can, we'd like to decentralize the whole thing, but that's how it stands at the moment. The Oracle will sit between the payments and the rewards ledger, and every time a transaction processes through the payment system, the Oracle will decide it'll either go into the marketplace and buy the Trip tokens and reward the customer back once the customer has paid and checked out. Because obviously a customer could pay, I mean, it's not going to happen, but a customer could pay, book a hotel and then cancel. And obviously all hotels have different cancellation clauses. So it has to be done on what we call proof of stay, which is checking out. And hotels can also reward customers in other areas. For example, hotels desperately want customers to stay in their hotel when, they don't want them wandering down the street to a restaurant. They'd ideally want them staying in their hotel and eating. So the hotels can reward them on many different levels of activities. I hope that kind of answers your question. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. So clever. I've got a question at the back. Now, would you mind handing the microphone down? All the way down, Darren, can you pass that microphone behind you?
Hello, Keld from Kryptonite. Are my rooms going to be cheaper if I book with Trippki?
Ultimately, yes. I mean, absolutely. So, currently the hotels and the online travel agents have what's known as a rate parity agreement, which is how the hotels are tied into these stringent contracts. But over time, if we can break the silos down so that reduces the commission from 30% down to, I'm going to say 10, because obviously 2.5 is going to the platform, and 2.5 is roughly being burnt off to create deflation, and approximately 5% is going back to the customer and rewards. So hopefully the network effect will be a win-win scenario for everybody and ultimately drive the prices down to a competitive level.
I mean, that's the key driver for me booking a hotel room would be, if it's cheaper with you guys, then I'm going to make that move.
Well, that's what we would try and deliver, and on top of that, a great service too.
The only worry would it block the hotel from using other services like Booking.com if they...
Not at all. So we'll sit alongside the Booking.coms and the Expedias in what's known as a distribution manager through a channel manager.
Okay. One last question. On the hotel list that you had, are they individual hotels that you've managed to get an agreement with, or are they just one chain that...
So the project's relatively new, and we've got discussions with about 12 hotel groups currently, of which we have got 2 interested parties signed up. The legacy group of hotels are based in South Africa and have about 55 hotels throughout Southern Africa and West Africa. And then the Red Carnation group has hotels, I think they've got about 35 hotels spread across Europe, the Channel Islands. So our team is going to, for the next year while we're building out the tech, we're going to be constantly trying to load up hotels.
One last question, sorry. How do you differentiate between Winding Tree?
Good question. So Winding Tree, we find, is very broad in what they're offering. And we're focusing specifically on hotels because that's where the major problem is at this stage. Hotels are desperately trying to deal directly with the consumer, and so that's what our main focus is. Get that right, and then we can move across to other applications. And we don't necessarily have to run those applications. Somebody here could come up with an idea and build it on top of our rewards protocol.
Actually, I have a comment on Winding Tree. I just finished to read the white paper, and they specifically say that they're not actually building an application. They're not consumer-facing. So, I mean, it's great to see that people are building stuff in the same. We support all the decentralized projects that want to get the hotel industry out of silos, but they specifically say that they're not building an app, so they assume that engineers are going to come and build a UI on top, and we just want to do the whole MVP. Obviously we want other people to build applications on top of our protocol, but we're going to release at least one application, so it does make sense to the hotels.
One thing keeps coming back to my mind that I wanted to say to you before that is actually, I feel this is two offerings in one, really. It's a rewards protocol that allows anybody to plug into. Any vertical can plug into the rewards protocol, and we're also building that first vertical, the hotel booking platform. So that's been bugging me for about 10 minutes, having not said that earlier on. Gentleman at the back over there. Could we pass the microphone to the right, Cal? Oh, right. That's him. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. If your competitors are making 30% of the booking revenue, chances are they're going to spend more money on getting a customer than you are. So my question is, how much are you prepared to get a new customer to use your platform?
Fair point. Again, when Airbnb, for example, arrived on the space, they were up against Goliaths, and they used the referral and affiliate model to gain their network effect. So essentially, we're going to be using the same effect. Once we sign up more and more hotels onto the platform, they internally have their own budget. So whilst they're giving, sorry if that's shining, whilst they're giving up to 30% commission to the online travel agents, they also have their own advertising and marketing costs. So we'll onboard them to use our reward system and push that out to their own client base, and really create an ecosystem for everybody. Because if we don't try and break down these silos, then who knows? It'll never be broken down.
Could I just ask a question? I just want to know about the currency aspect of your system. I take it's a global system,
yeah,
and you'll have lots of currencies to deal with.
Correct. So we'll accept any form of payment, and obviously at the moment, the market is global, and 99.9% of the people don't know what cryptocurrencies are. So they can pay using credit card through the payment system, and at that stage, there will be a fee which the hotel will pay, but those who pay in cryptocurrencies will obviously get a discount. And it's our duty as Trippki to try and educate all new users that they can try and use Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay. What about the rewards side of it? Pricing the rewards. Do you convert that into Ether or Trip? Do you have a mechanism for handling different currency costs?
We will launch the ICO at the end of November. And the market will decide the price at the time.
No, what I mean is you say your hotel, people will be able to earn rewards for staying in hotels. And I take it those will be measured in financial terms.
Correct. So what happens, argument's sake, if a hotel room is $100 per night, the person will pay the $100, and the payment mechanism will split the payment. $90 will go to the hotel, $2.50 will go to be burned to create deflation. $2.50 will go into the booking platform, and $5 will be converted into Trip tokens and kicked back to the identity wallet.
So you have a token, the fiat currency exchange that handles.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's just what I wanted to know. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Microphone's coming to this gentleman here.
Hi. I understand how you intend to drive adoption through token appreciation. Have you thought about the next step, how you convert people holding their token and actually spending them as the token appreciate? That's my number one question. And my second question is, because it ties with the first question, as you experiment with different model, how do you think about governance of the entire thing? How does that work? Question here.
Okay, well, the first question, so obviously the Trippki platform, and again, why we're building the platform, is that people that are holding the tokens can use their tokens, again, to make bookings through our platform. They can also cash them out on a secondary exchange. They can also send them to a loved one. So there are various ways they can utilize that token. The second question was?
So it has to do as you experiment with the model, how do you think in terms of governance, how you intend to drive changes if needs be?
Oh, can I hand that to Mark?
So governance is obviously one of the most important and interesting questions today in the crypto space. The system has been built essentially to provide, not at this point, it's not going to launch with the MVP, but the idea is that you can use a proof of stake system in order to introduce changes over time. Over the first couple years of the project, there's not going to be any need to do that because there is a corporation which stands behind the maintenance and the building of the system. But as more and more hotels and other chains become engaged with the system and become major holders of the coin, the proof of stake voting aspect will be introduced.
I'll take it, John. Question. If it's deflationary, isn't it better to be, if it's deflationary, isn't it better to be a hodler and hold the tokens rather than spend them at the hotel?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can hold them, but people's nature is that they also want to spend them. I mean, I don't hold all my Bitcoin. There comes a time that I need to cash out, or So it's a good question, but let's see where it goes. Yeah.
I think this can also reward early adopters of the users, right? So we're used to kind of people getting involved in crypto and thinking, right, I just hold. Whereas in this case, you can actually just use the system, be paid in Tripp, get your kickback in Tripp, and you could sit on it, and you could be an early adopter who in 5 years' time sells his story to the sun, or actually doesn't bother selling it because he doesn't need to. But he's that story of the guy who goes, yeah, I just use this system. I've basically been paid to go on holiday for the last 10 years. I mean, I've started reading these stories in the papers now about crypto, and it just amazes me because I've been here for quite a while now, and I'm not a millionaire, right? And I want to know why, because I keep reading about these people who are. So maybe we might be able to provide one of those. But I think there usually comes a point in that economic tilting point where you kind of go, yeah, I'm early adopter, it's great. Wow, this hotel's just offered me 2 weeks at the so-and-so, and that's only half my reward points. Yeah, okay, I'm going. And there'll be a reason to spend them. But I think that's the joy of any crypto holder, right? When to sell and when not to. Any more questions? Yes. Oh, sorry, gentleman with the microphone there.
Yeah, sorry. I was just wondering, you mentioned exchanges in your model. Have you managed to speak to any at the moment? Obviously, Shapeshift are here today. Have you been in communication with them, for example? Because it's so, obviously it's a lot harder these days to get listed on an exchange, and it seems to be a prominent part of your model. Obviously, if you had difficulty being listed on an exchange, then it sort of falls apart in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's decentralized methods as well. The second question was, I was going to ask, this gentleman reminded me, do you have any concern for the volatility of the token? Obviously, the reward token's quite heavily built into your platform. Do you think the volatility of that would affect any of the business operations of it?
So the first question about exchanges, like everyone's like, oh, when Polo? That was the question, right? Yeah. To make it short.
For investors.
So basically, we decided that we need a functional token, because what we see now is a lot of tokens out there actually don't have any proper function. So our focus was entirely on putting a tech team together, getting the crypto economics right, making sure that people who actually, not necessarily speculators, but people who actually want to use it as a reward system, which is actually people who matter, which is customers and hotels, actually use it. And then because the currency is portable, we can't stop any exchanges from listing them. So even though, okay, exchanges come and they chat, and, you know, it's not our focus to actually try to convince them. So maybe it's going to kind of piss off some speculators, but that's what we have to push for as the whole kind of community building stuff on decentralized protocols. And the second question, what was that again?
Regarding the volatility of the token.
Regarding the volatility, I think it's better to talk to the engineers because there is a stable coin aspect, but I think the engineer is going to kill me if I will try to explain it to you.
That's right.
I don't know if you want to take it. Maybe wait for the white paper to come out,
Sure.
because, yeah.
Thank you.
Guys, listen, we are here this evening, so there's Mark Croston, who's our travel tech guy. Mark, stand up there. There's Bill Purvis, who's our CFO. And Mike, who's in our strategy. There's Toma at the back there, who's also media and strategy. So, you know, you're welcome to come up to us after this and ask many questions and drink some beer and various other things.
And Ksenia's right next.
Oh, and Ksenia, sorry, I forgot Ksenia. Yeah, I apologize. And Edan.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So I've got two questions. The first is more of a clarification on the example you just gave. So the 2.5 tokens would be burned, and the 5 tokens that would be rewarded. Does that, so 2.5 tokens will be burnt? What does that mean? And the 5 tokens that would be rewarded, does that come from the vault?
It might not be 5 tokens. I mean, essentially, it's 5% of the value of the dollar or euro pound booking, depending what the price of the token is. So the token will initially we'll bootstrap it out of our vault, and the $2.50 will go and be burnt to create the deflation. Does that answer your question?
Okay, can you explain that burn?
The burn.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give it to Mike, because Mike's really good at that.
So the way the burn works is that the vault will sell Trip to the market, and it will effectively earn money. And in certain points of network effect, which may be numbers of Trip tokens given, etc. We have to be careful so that the vault can't be front run. It will buy Trip from the open market and burn it at those predetermined rates. So the example that Ed was given, it's not like it happens in real time, the burn. So you get, if you get $10 worth of Trip, you get $10 worth of Trip. What you know is that at some point in the future, as network effect builds, that a percentage of what the kind of value you put into it will be burned at a future point in time. So you don't have to worry about your Trip getting burnt, because you get your Trip, but by contributing to the system and creating network effect, the Trip will get burned later.
Second question is what current challenges do you guys face moving forward? Challenges, yeah.
Challenges. This is the Bitcoin cryptocurrency space. I mean, there's loads of challenges. I suppose if we don't raise enough money to build out the platform, that's particularly one of them. But we're a dedicated team. There's no real challenges. I mean, we're excited, we're dynamic, and we can take this on.
What I meant was like roadblocks within the technology, within the ecosystem. What you
actually, yeah. So maybe I should take the challenges, because there's a lot of challenges of scalability. Sorry for the S word with Ethereum. So we're basically looking at state channels and Raiden and maybe hacking something together in house before like TrueBit or Raiden actually out. So that's what we're doing.
More questions? More questions? More questions? This microphone's come to you. Didn't we start with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the beginning.
Right, yeah.
And this will be the last one.
Yeah, the vault, obviously the vault holding 40%, right? Is that going to be, partly in hot storage and partly in cold storage? Because obviously if you're having to reward people on every transaction, I'm assuming most of it needs to be online. And when you've got 40% of your holdings online, isn't that a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a worry, considering it, hacks and all the rest?
Okay, this. I'm not the technical guy here, but again, it's held in a smart contract and with multi-sig. So obviously, security is always a concern for everybody, and again, our tech team will look into that.
Well, multi-sig is probably a very good idea. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the short term, the vault is going to be held in a multi-sig controlled wallet, and is going to move to a smart contract system that we'll be testing and releasing over the next 6 months, basically.
Well, thank you very much. There's some great questions there as well. And I've been told by Paul that we've now got some T-shirts to give away, but you've got to answer some questions. So if you don't know anything about Bitcoin and blockchain technology, you're not going to get a T-shirt, I can tell you that now. These are lovely shapeshift... Can I just make up one? All right.
Just give them away. Who wants a T-shirt?
Oh, no, this is a great question. Which of these developers would not likely be welcomed at the Bitcoin Core Christmas party for his rage quit? Is it A, Satoshi Nakamoto, B, Mike Hearn? There you go, this first person, there you go, give it to Andy. Yeah, he's got one, Can we just can I be sexist? Can we just give one to a lady?
If she answers the question.
Oh, she answers the question, okay. Who created Bitcoin? She knows anyway. Oh, got more. Okay. I'm going to have another good question down here. Oh, no, man from the boys. What does UTXO stand for? Oh, look at that. Proper geek. And finally... Yeah. All right. No, you've already answered one. You'd probably know the answer to that as well. When was the Ethereum Genesis block mined? This is for your last T-shirt.
January 2000.
Ethereum. So I'll give it to Steve. Yeah, well played. He was at the last Bitcoin meetup pub quiz. I think he knows it from there. Woo, good throw.
And finally, a pair of socks.
No, those are mine. I put them to one side. God, look, I don't wear socks, man. I need a pair of socks. That's the way it goes. Thank you very much for coming out, guys. Some pens at the bar for you as well. Thank you very much for your time.